Doyle Buehler, the Canadian from Australia. So the specialist in digital, all things digital. And we had Doyle on our virtual trade fair event a few weeks back, and it was a fantastic session then. So really looking forward to another great session from Doyle. So I think without any further ado, Doyle, we'll just hand over to you to take it away.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Ivan. Really appreciate it. And wow, what a memorable presentation by Sally. Really appreciate her time. I think she had to step off or whatever. But yeah, just fascinating in terms of her story and what she's had to go through and the transformation. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about that as well coming up. I'm going to do a little bit more traditional presentation, if that's okay with everybody. Something that sort of my background is basically I was a pilot in the military back in the 90s for the Canadian Air Force, and then into aerospace engineering. And in about 2002, I decided, you know what, there's a lot I want to do that I can't really do in sort of the engineering and the aerospace field, but I still sort of had that analytical brain. So my approach is a little bit more sort of methodical, process based, and that sort of thing. So it's really sort of brought things to light in terms of what can we be doing differently and how can we sort of design our future, right? We talk about future proofing, and a lot of it comes out now in terms of what are we actually looking for and what do we want to accomplish, and is there a process, and is there, you know, a methodology to be able to do that. And I am going to present through a screen share. And normally I'd like to share with my iPad, but I guess I can't today because I like to sketch presentations. They're actually a lot of fun. So it's going to be a little bit routine, but just to give you an idea, I want to take you through a step-by-step process in terms of what it is that we're seeing right now and how can we actually apply that to our business. Right? Is it something that we can overcome? Is it something that we can do? You know, where to from here? I love that quote that you guys put together. Where to from here? Where are you going? You know, what are you doing exactly? And that's why it's really, really important. I've been in digital since about, like I said, 2002. We had one of the top 50 fastest growing companies in Canada, e-commerce type business around the world. And since I moved to Australia about 10 years ago, I've been doing sort of the helping businesses sort of understand how they fit together and what pieces they need in the digital space, because it is very confusing. It's damn confusing and damn overwhelming as well. So it's a matter of how do we actually apply some principles. It's like anything. If you can apply a process, a methodology, a principle to it, it makes it a lot easier to manage, and it makes it easier to sort of isolate, okay, I need to fix this because, you know, this is not working, as opposed to just kind of trying stuff out and seeing where you can go kind of thing, which is okay now and then, but it's something that we need to look at for a long-term basis. So I frame that with sort of the strategic sense of how do we actually look forward? How do we kind of get past this, you know, recession, pandemic, all of this stuff rolled up into one. And it's obviously quite a big thing to deal with. But it does come down to mindset too, right? I love this quote. I don't know where it came from. It's not mine, but change your attitude, unfuck your head, make an honest, unsentimental accounting of your present condition, right? Prepare to be disappointed, define what you want instead clearly. By clear, I mean precise and feasible. An unrealistic objective is sure to sabotage the process. Hit the books, try and error, inquire, risk, mimic, insist, and resist. I call it like a digital expedition, right? So we need to look at where are we right now? And I liken it to the airport terminal, right? We're in liminal space, even though not many people are traveling right about now. Still, to get somewhere, we typically have to go, or did in the past, to an airport terminal. But that's just sort of a metaphor in terms of how do we actually move from where we are now to where we need to be? And how do we move from sort of that transactional space to the transformational side of business as well? Because without an understanding of where it is that we want to go, we won't necessarily have the means or the methodology or the thinking behind how do we actually get there as well. And when you think about it, an airport is a perfect example. It's like, you know that you're going somewhere. You know that you're going to London or to Sydney or to New York or LA or wherever. Do you know that with your business? And a lot of people don't. They get to the airport and it's like, oh, where am I going to go today? And it's like, oh, I don't know. But nine times out of 10, if you're actually traveling, you know exactly where you're going. I'm getting on flight 424, QF 424 from Sydney to LA. Boom, right? But can everybody say that about their business? I don't know about you, but I've experienced a lot where a lot of businesses don't necessarily know exactly where they're going. They don't even know what airline, they don't know what city, they don't know, how they're going to get there. Are they going to get there by car? Are they going to get there by airplane or boat or spacecraft or whatever the case may be? So we need to know where we are. And that's really one of the themes that I talk about a fair bit, is how do we actually understand that? How do we actually move forward? Because at the end of the day, we are looking at, how do we get some clarity here? How do we understand what's going on? How do we actually combat what really needs to be dealt with here? I'm not going to go into all this here because it is quite detailed, but there's 6 things that we need to measure ourselves against. And first one is, before that though, we need to look at where can we go with how long it's going to take. What do we have to fix? How is it going to get us to that next step? And all of this is going to be coming up in terms of how do I actually design something to move forward. So zone 1, we're in a fear stage, right? Mentally, physically, intellectually, even. It's like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. Don't really know what I need to do. That's short term, right? If we can actually put a solid methodology to things, that gives us some certainty, right? That helps combat the chaos. Next, we have to look into the zone 2, which is learning. Okay, after what comes after fear, it's learning. We need to know what needs to happen. So if you're looking for a timeline, look for about 3 months. What can we learn? What can we associate? How can we pick up on things? How can we, rebuild our business, or understand new opportunities, or look at how do we need to shift or pivot or change or adjust or evolve, or, whatever word you want to use here. That's when we can get into zone 3, which is growth. And we're not going to get there automatically. We still do have to go through these stages as well. A way to look at it is the one top here is taking a look at your state, right? What is the state that you're in? Chaos, comprehension, certainty. What kind of knowledge do we have? How do we actually need to present that knowledge? The assumption is that business is not the same as usual, right? You woke up today, 3 months ago, things changed dramatically for pretty much all of us. Doesn't matter what it is. It needs to understand, how can we make things better? So how to do something, should I do something, could I do something? We have to look at the symptoms, right? What are your marketing fears? Are you testing your assumptions? Are you making your confirmations in what you do and how you do it as well? We need tools. We need a toolkit. Are you looking at a ladder or a life raft, as I call it, right? To get through the recession, to get past the pandemic, to get customers in your door or onto your website or whatever the case may be, we need something now. And in most businesses' case, excuse me, it's a ladder or it's a life raft, again, whatever metaphor you want to use. We need to pick one and we need to push forward from that. From there, we need a roadmap. How to get to the airport, how to get to Sydney. I'm in Perth. How do I get to Sydney, right? If I'm in Sydney, how do I get to LA? So we have to look at that. And that's where we look at a flight plan in terms of how do we actually design our journey, design our story, redesign our business so that it actually works. We have to look at strategic issues as well. Are we shifting? Are we creating a foundation? Are we having foresight? So once we get past this initial bump in the road, or chasm, or whatever you want to call it, dip in the road, we need something to be able to take us forward in terms of being strategic. And then we need outcomes, right? So some of the signals, what's happening? Are people actually hearing us? Are we listening? One of the things, today's day and age, we have to be very, very specific. A lot of people have, what do they call? They're called noise canceling earphones. And for a lot of businesses, guess what? You're the noise that they're canceled, that they've canceled rather, right? So we have to make sure that we're listening and we're hearing what they're saying, so then we can communicate and connect with them. And you need to build enablers and you need to build assets as well. All this is really looking at in terms of a recession, in terms of an economic downturn, there's a point in the curve where we slowly tilt over the edge, and some people call it a tipping point. I look at it as an inflection point. Why? Because we can actually take some action and we can decide when to jump off that downward curve. Takes a lot of these pieces, but if we know when we can kind of move the curve in the other direction, then we're one step ahead of the game. Now, there's three things that you can do here, right? In any situation, you can do nothing, you can do something, or you can, what I call, do strategic. If you do nothing, what's going to happen, right? You might get some little bit of traction, but guess what? Overall, you're going down. If you're doing something, that's the yellow curvy line in the middle, right? Where exactly are you going? Are you actually creating a business advantage? Are you actually designing a process to be able to connect with your audience appropriately? Or if you're doing strategic, what does that mean? That means you have that power. You have that ability to adjust the course, right? You have that ability to lead through this turmoil. You have that ability to understand, okay, this is what my customer is wanting. This is what my audience is looking for. This is how I have to shift my business. And yeah, it's not going to be all the way straight up like we, see some business curves. Oh, your business has got to be on a hockey stick or nothing's going to happen. No, it's not going to be easy. Even if you are the most planning, strategic person around, you're still going to have your ups and downs, but that's okay. At least we're heading in the right direction, right? So it's super, super important. So what's one of the biggest ways of doing this? How do we actually get to the peak of the mountain? I don't know who's climbed a mountain. I grew up in Calgary, in Canada, on the near the Rocky Mountains. So I wasn't climbing peaks like this, but I was climbing a mountain. And what we found out, early on was that if you weren't prepared, you weren't going to make it up there, or you might make it up there, but you might not make it down, or you might not make it all the way down, or whatever the case may be, right? So we need to shift our thinking. We need to understand of how can we actually do this properly. And that's what I call a digital expedition, right? We need to be able to find that point of certainty. We need to be able to find that point of competency, and we need to be able to find that point of clarity as well, because that's what gives us control. That's what gives us that power to be able to say, this is what we really need to do. We need to step up as leaders within our business and say, we're not just sort of flying by the seat of our pants, right? We're having a plan, a process, a methodology behind this. We're actually thinking about this, because if you look at any expedition from the past, across the Atlantic, or, across the Antarctic, or, in the North Arctic, or whatever the case may be, we all know it. If they weren't prepared, like, people died. And I'm not saying people have to die in business today. They don't. It's not necessary, right? But we got to be smart about it. We really have to think through what it is that we need and how are we actually preparing our business for that. And can we get to that point of certainty? Because without it, we're going to be all over the place. It's worse than doing, nothing. We're doing something, but we're not getting any traction. We may be successful. We may not be successful. But what we do know from the past and what we do know from the present is that if you plan and prepare for that expedition, that's where you can actually move forward. And I actually call it the chief expedition officer is the changing face of leadership now and into the future. And without it, unless we think of it like that, you know what, a lot of these businesses are going to fail. A lot of them are going to, die in vain and that sort of thing. And it doesn't have to happen if we look at how can we actually do that. Now, there's 4 key ingredients here. There's the process, the method, the audience, and the story. These are all very, very important. In, the limited time that I've got, I just want to quickly go through process to give you something to say, okay, this is how we can use it. These are sort of the key points that will point you in the right direction. Because if you have a process, guess what? That helps those steps. That helps you plan and see what else you can do going forward. So what are the 3 most critical things that you need in order to survive, to thrive? Well, we need digital delivery, we need value creation, and we need a personalized experience. I talk about it a lot because it's on my backboard here, because it is very, very important. If you don't have these three components, you're missing out on the, the digital economy. Value creation. What are you actually doing? And when you cannot, be there for that person, when you cannot have your door open for people to walk in, what value are you actually providing? There's so many businesses out there that have taken the stand that, oh, well, I just have to shut my doors. And it's like, well, if you look at it, there's so much more you can offer. If you're a specialty retailer, if you're a specialty food, if you're a specialty entertainment, there's all kinds of value that you can create and transform from what people were prepared to do from before. You look at a brand like, it kind of covers all of these, but a brand like Cirque du Soleil, like if they're originally from Canada, global brand, they do the circus aerobatics and that sort of thing. Fantastic shows, like absolutely brilliant. They are, in essence, an entertainment company. But what fundamentally is it that we're talking about here? Can you provide that value elsewhere? I would believe that you can, right? It comes down to digital delivery and creating a personal experience, which I'll get into. But look at the way that you're transforming that value. So it's not as simple as, again, being in a restaurant where all you're doing is serving food. There's no real value in that, because you're at the end of Uber and you're one click away from that other competitor for food from Uber or whatever the case may be. But what if you could tie in that value that enhances what you're doing? So instead of just, talking or creating food that you come in and sit, you're actually creating an experience. And that's where we get into the personalized experience. Can we actually create something, a remarkable experience worth remembering in everything that we do? Again, whether you're retail, whether you're professional services or consulting or whatever, how are we creating a personalized experience? And it doesn't mean, putting Doyle on a pen and giving it to Doyle, right? It doesn't mean that. What it means is that you're creating the journey that helps them through that process, that helps them understand what it is that's really important. And then number 3, digital delivery. That's, in embracing and utilizing this whole capability of the digital economy. And if you look at it, like, it's actually quite shocking, because a lot of businesses that have, grown up in the last 20 years or 10 years or 5 years, only about 30 to 40% of them are actually what we would consider digital literate, right? And I don't mean they're stupid. I just mean that they haven't gotten around or decided or been strategic about saying, we need to set up a proper digital strategy. We need to set up a proper digital foundation to deliver our product anytime, any place, anywhere. And that's really the coolest part about what we have right now, right in front of us for every single business out there, is that it doesn't matter if you're a small little mom and pop shop on the corner of your neighborhood, 2 blocks away from your house, you can still have customers from around the world. You can deliver a product digitally, but you can also deliver an experience. You can deliver your value. You can, create everything that you want there. And if you have an ability to impact that business from around the world, like, why wouldn't you? Ultimately, though, you have to decide if that's for you. But even if you could expand your reach from that small little block, that small little neighborhood to, a suburb or an area or a city or a state or that sort of thing, all of the tools are available right now where a business can basically become or utilize something like Uber Eats without being a food provider, right? So if I have a shop and my doors are closed because of a social distancing or lockdown or whatever you want to call it, I can still ship product. I can set up a click and collect on any website immediately, so that person can order online and then you come and pick it up, or I can get it shipped to me directly. And there's companies out there that are doing this, and it's all done on an app. It's so fascinating. Yet a lot of businesses are suffering, and they're suffering because they didn't take that time beforehand to start to prepare, to say, these are the tools that I need. This is the equipment that I need. Remember, I was talking about the expedition? right? What do you do when you start an expedition? Don't just start climbing up the mountain, because if I did that, say I'm going to go climb Mount Everest, all I have is like, a thin little jumper and some shoes, but I ain't going to make it. So you need to take the time to be able to understand that these are very important. You need to start to put these in place now, right? You have this time that I spoke of earlier, right? The time of being able to put these together. Can you get past that fear zone? Can I get into that learning zone? Can I get into that growth zone? And it is going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight, but that's why it's important to start right now. Start today, right? Put these pieces together. Measure yourself. Are you doing strategic? Are you doing nothing? Or are you just doing something just to get by? Back to this, if you look at a company like, again, Cirque du Soleil, and let's compare it to something like the Disney streaming channel, right? Cirque du Soleil has, I can't imagine how many shows they've done over the years, right? Like hundreds, maybe a couple thousand. They have like whole theaters built around this brand and this image and that sort of thing. And yes, I will give you the fact that it is an experience, but you know what? Desperate times require desperate, activities. It's like, if you're facing bankruptcy, what would you do? Well, again, look at what value are they creating? Are they creating a personalized experience, and can they digital deliver? Could Cirque du Soleil become a streaming service, streaming the spectacle, right? Which is what they're well known around the world for. They have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of concerts and events and shows from around the world. Why couldn't they become the Netflix of spectacle? Why couldn't they become, the selling products of relating to each of the themes and each of the theater groups and each of the, the different activities and shows that they do? They could have created a whole new revenue stream just based on being able to deliver a digital product, creating a personal experience and value creation. If you compare it to the Disney Channel, right, what are they great at? Well, they're great at, content and entertainment and everything else like that, which is the same thing as Cirque du Soleil. And what do? They actually created, now the name's gone for me, that play Hamilton. They actually created a streaming movie from actually filming a production of Hamilton, and they brought that onto their Disney Channel. And if you're not aware of Hamilton, I haven't seen it, but apparently it's this greatest play ever created in the US and a lot of other places as well. So they've actually been able to, listen to what their customers hear what they're saying and say, we want some of this. And then they look at the situation. Oh, well, it's COVID. Well, okay, so what can we do? Well, we film the play and we stream the play, right? And then we sell products related to the play, and we sell, other activities based on the play. So you compare again Cirque du Soleil versus Disney, and I mean, yes, they are individually different, but fundamentally they're the same. So one company said, hey, let's embrace this, let's engage this. And again, I don't know what other problems Cirque du Soleil may have been having, but they didn't map out a journey. They didn't prepare for an expedition. They just said, oh, yeah, okay. Well, maybe they didn't want to try. I don't know. I don't know what they were doing or how they were doing it. But so let me ask you this. If you could actually do something differently now to, to guarantee or secure your future, would you? I don't know. Most people would say yes. So can you, tick these boxes? Am I creating value that extends beyond just people walking into my shop, or just based on doing a workshop or a consultant or cooking or something like that? Whatever your service is, whatever your product is, look at your value that you're actually able to deliver. Then can you deliver it in a digital medium? Can you prepare it for your audience around the corner, around the block, across the country? Shipping companies, they're the busiest companies around because they've been able to do that, because people are saying, hey, I can do this. And you can compete with Amazon. You can compete with, they have a company here in Australia, Bunnings, right? You can compete with, they're like Home Depot in the US and Canada, right? They have a click and collect. Some of the big stores have it, click and collect. Guess what? You can download that as an app for your website and install it within 24 hours. You can get again home deliveries, that home delivery for the businesses as well as an app or a plugin to your website. So what are you waiting for? Create a personalized experience. Again, some companies have been doing this phenomenally well in the restaurant field and the experience field, where they're saying, okay, well, if people only can stay at home, what does that mean we have to do? That means we have to do something that they can then access it at home. So how do we create that experience? How do we understand what it is that they need? Well, we listen to them. We hear what they want to do, and we extend that to what we're able to do as well. So what do you do next? You need to know, where are you right now? So again, can you tick the boxes of digital delivery, value creation, personalized experience? Can you? Find out where you are, and then where are you going and how will you get there? This is the expedition up the mountain, right? This is what I'm talking about. You're not going to be able to get to step 2 until you've sort of understand, you've sort of itemized, you've understood where exactly it is that you are. And then step number 3, what teams, tools, and tactics do you need? So if you look at it from the perspective of how can we actually do things, we have to put it into a time frame to say, yeah, it is going to take some time. Yes, we're scared of opening the doors. Yes, we are not sure what to do online. And you know what? That's okay. But now's your opportunity to be able to say, I need to learn something. I need to get into my zone 2 as quickly as possible. Because if I'm not in zone 2, then I'm still back in fear. And if you're still in fear, nothing's going to happen. Setting that foundation moves us then into zone number 3, which is growth, where we can actually do something about it. We don't have to necessarily contract. We don't necessarily have to restrict. We have to say, I'm going to get off this curve now. It's heading in the wrong direction. I can do something very, very specific to be able to overcome that. I need to do strategic, right? I'm not just going to do anything, and I need to plan an expedition based on how do we actually do that to get to the point of certainty. 3 final steps. Like I said, where are you right now? Where are you going? How will you get there? And then what team tools and tactics do you need to do for that? And ask yourself, is this an expedition or a safari? Right? I haven't been on a safari in South Africa. I'd love to, but there is a difference, right? A safari it's kind of fun, and you got a Jeep and everybody supplies everything and away you go kind of thing. An expedition is going to be hard work, right? I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I am saying it is going to be worth it, right? It takes a lot of work. It's not going to be easy, but it is going to be worth it. What's at stake here? Your business, your lifestyle, everything. So you decide what you want to do with it. If you want to find out where you can start in terms of doing quick inventory of what are your digital capabilities, and again, totally different conversation. But if you want to take a look at what is important for your digital platform, your digital strategy, and your digital thinking, your genius is what I call it, as well, go to leadership.digital. And I'll actually, if you do, because of this event, I'll send you a copy of my book as well, which is sort of the companion version of the steps that you'll check out in leadership.digital. So if you do take that quiz, just get in touch with me. Say, hey, I was on the wisdom session. Please send me my book, and I'll put one in the post for you. How's that? Any questions?
Great, thanks, Doyle. Yeah, and I appreciate the offer. One of the challenges we might find with taking you up on that offer, if it is a physical book, our postal service is also shut down a bit at the moment. So
Okay.
it doesn't work particularly well locally, but
okay. Well, we'll wait. You will get it to you when things settle down. Or there is an online version. I can email you a PDF as well. So
that'd be 100% great. Yeah, that'd be wonderful. Thank you. So really appreciate that. That exclusive special offer on the Wisdom's Global Summit from Doyle. Wonderful. Thanks so much. And thanks for bringing us back into sharp focus on how to actually navigate our way through these challenges that we're facing right now. And the question that immediately comes to mind for me is, what is the kind of feedback that you're currently getting from your customers, your marketplace? Where are their minds? What are they at? Are you seeing a lot of what people are calling pivoting, or are you seeing a lot of sitting on hands and sticking in that fear zone? What's actually going on in the marketplace as you see it now?
I would say it's a mix, right? You do have some companies that have really sort of understood that, okay, they need to move forward. It's not going to be ending quickly. I'm part of this group called the Gray Swan Guild, and we actually have sort of assembled a lot of point of views from around the world in terms of, okay, what's happening now, post-pandemic kind of thing. A lot of people are just hoping that it's going to go away. The reality is it's not, and those people are the ones that are still kind of fearful, that they're in that fear zone to say, okay, I'm not sure what I need to do. But they're not sure what to do. So what do? Well, you kind of keep thinking about, I'm not sure what to do. So it's kind of a vicious cycle downwards as well. So there's still a lot of that. There are those businesses though that I have seen, like in the restaurant field and the e-commerce and the consulting and that sort of thing, where they've basically took the bull by the horns and say, you know what, I don't know how long this is going to last. I'm not sure where this is going, but what I can do is I can take advantage of it. I can leverage what I know. I can shift, I can pivot to again provide that value, create that digital delivery point, create the value, and create that personalized journey as well, that experience that matters, because that's what people are looking for. You're one click away from disaster, and that's even more apparent now. The power of your finger clicking your mouse. Everybody's going online. People want to buy online. So are you there? And it's, again, not just a service, not just a product, rather it's a service too. And for those who are selling products, it's, you need to build your foundation. You need to put these pieces in place very quickly. If you're a service-based business, guess what? You need to be able to demonstrate that you're providing that value, that you're providing that reliability, that you're creating that experience for them, and you're able to deliver it anywhere around the world. That's the powerful part too, is that you don't have to be a consultant or a service provider within your community. You can expand out very quickly.
Great, thanks, Leslie.
Thank you, Doyle. Really, my daughters, I must tell you, are watching on Facebook Live, and I got a little WhatsApp message from my 27-year-old saying, "Mom, he's on Canva." So that was a thumbs up for you. Good job. So thank you for that. Doyle, the question that I have is the matching of the personalized experience with the digital transformation. Because I think when we think about, to speak for myself, digital can often feel like, am I connecting personally with my customer? Because it feels like it's a mass type environment. And really what I'd like to find out from you is, what are some examples of personalized experience in a digital environment?
Yeah, it's a great question, Lee. Creating a digital experience is something as simple as, you can start small, right? It doesn't need to be very complicated. Like I did talk about Cirque du Soleil, and that's kind of an ultimate experience if you can digitalize it. But it can be quite simple. Live streaming, it's a capability that everybody has. We're doing one now. Like, let's be honest, this is a tool that we're using. So can you create that personalized experience, that journey for your specific audience? And it's kind of honestly, in essence, what you're doing now, you're creating that experience for your audience so that they can connect with you. It's very personal, right? Anybody can come on, join, talk, communicate, you name it. You have other programs like that. So this is actually a really good example of doing that, creating that custom personalized experience. Other levels of it might be more specific, like a smaller group or a smaller forum, or different types of content or different types of information, again, to help them in that step-by-step process that they're going through. So if you're helping a business, how are you helping? Are you you're not the hero of the story either. You need to look at it in terms of, you're the Yoda, you're the guide, you're the the person helping them along, they're Luke Skywalker or whomever, right? They are the hero. So how do we actually personalize that journey for them as well? So start with something simple like live streaming, move it forward towards more, one-on-one type connections. Again, designed around that step that they are at within their business can be very, very helpful for service-based consulting type businesses as well, coaches and those things.
Can I ask another question?
Yeah.
Is there, the more we become digital, I also have that people are also maybe yearning for the touch, the physical, and you spoke about merchandising, and so wondering if part of that customization and personalization is, yes, you can order online, but what we deliver is something that is, unfortunately in South Africa, as I say, it isn't always easy to get things in the post, but there, we do have many wonderful delivery services, that's for sure. We can deliver in many different kinds of ways. But I just also wonder if there isn't opportunity for us to say, things that we might have ignored in the past, and this is just an idea I've been playing with, like a physical diary. We were talking in Wisdom's chats about people who like writing lists or liking writing down things. And maybe because we so much on digital now, there's almost this yearning to go back to something that has something physical. And I'd just love to hear your comments on that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, there is that side of things that, what will never replace that human to human connection. There's, things called a new ailment called Zoom fatigue, right? Where people are tired of, being connected through a camera kind of thing. But I guess you'll have to look at, okay, well, how is it helping? And is it, it's not perfect, but it's better than nothing kind of thing. And look, it's going to get better, and you can get into, virtual reality, but we're, still a ways from that. So look, it's really important to be able to have those connections. I totally agree. But sometimes it is just a matter of, okay, can we have more of those connections, more of these conversations? Because sometimes people just, love to talk and love to hang out. And, can we maybe even combine, shopping experiences together? So, me and you, Lee, we can go to the shopping center through Zoom kind of thing, and shop and buy together kind of thing. So we need to look at how can we actually enhance that experience as well. But related to sort of how you can do that now, and it does come down to live streaming. But in Australia, there's a service called HelloFresh where it's basically like they send you the ingredients. It's not like pre-made food. It's like they send you 2 chicken breasts and bag of celery and 2 potatoes, and you have to cut it and chop it and cook it, right? So this is where sort of we can really take that experience level too, is say, instead of just shipping it to somebody and they cook it on their own, you actually combine it with like a celebrity chef like Jamie Oliver from the UK. And actually he's doing a kind of a show it seems like it's live, and it seems like it's, well, it's in his kitchen kind of thing, and he has his family filming it. So it looks very, very, very tactile. But the point is that you can then take that. Let's say I want to have a certain type of meal. Why don't you provide, a celebrity chef, or, just a great chef, and he actually walks us through that during supper time. So I'm cooking with Jamie Oliver. I've got the ingredients. They were shipped to me, last week or today or whenever, you can kind of arrange it. And then you sit and you watch Jamie Oliver as you both cut potatoes together, so wouldn't that be cool? So we kind of have to live with what we've got. And yes, it is limited, but if you can provide that, if you're able to, deliver that kind of experience, people may not necessarily go back when they want something specific, when they want that experience that you can deliver. Like, to me, you've set your bar pretty high for your competitors. So we're never going to get to the 100% where it's like all online. Like, I'm a digital guy, but I know that. And the problem is that we're still only at about 30%. Right? We still have a lot of room to get to, probably about 75 to 80% of what you do and what you purchase and how you get product and services into your home. That's a big gap. And most companies aren't even near approaching that. And so what can they do to be able to enhance that when we're in this period of lockdown and shelter in place and all of this kind of stuff, where guess what, businesses that aren't able to kind of reach and see where they can go and what they can do and what they can create, they're the ones that are missing out. And look at the position that they'll put themselves in once it all is over, right? They'll position themselves far ahead of any other company that's coming in, or any other company that may have struggled, because they've actually committed to it and they've said, you know what, I need to survive this. I need to get past fear and into learning and into growth. How do I do that? I need to again create the delivery experience and get things going for my business. So
great, thanks Doyle. Mpulelo, Trevor, I think Mpulelo was also come to you now. Mpulelo?
Sorry, Trevor, I had to come before you, man. Doyle, thank you very much. It was a good presentation. In actual fact, I think it speaks to what I feel would be where the 90% of the opportunities that I have in the business I'm doing are lying. So it's been great from that perspective. I have two questions, and probably the second one a little bit more different from what we're talking about. But the first one is, and I keep asking this question, we are all moving into the online space. What that means is that there obviously is going to be a myriad of choices online. If that's the case, how do we differentiate? Because now we are all digital. If it was 10 companies that were providing food online or were providing an entertainment streaming service, now you have 100 of them. How do you make sure that within the 100, when a person wants to go online and click, you are the one they're clicking on? So that would have been my first question. The second one would be, with the services that you provide and what you're doing, which is very digital, have you had experiences where you use that in a more third world environment where the penetration of digital is not as high? Those are my two questions.
great questions. No, thank you. Yeah, if you look at, and honestly, this is where you can sort of copy some of the big guys too, right? Because they have a lot of this infrastructure in place already. So how does Amazon get bigger? And, it's a big behemoth, but it is getting bigger, right? And it is getting larger and more customers. So how do they do that? Well, they're able, again, if you look at those three parts of the power triangle, they're able to create value. They're able to deliver digital, and they're able to create the experience. So when you order something from Amazon, you need to look at, well, okay, what else is this person looking for you? When you're creating that personalized experience, that's what they're doing, is they're looking at your order history, they're looking at your search history, they're looking at other stuff you may have ordered and even other websites you might have visited, and they're personalizing that journey. So, you bought a power drill. Guess what? More than likely, I mean, this is a simplistic example, but he needs a toolbox, or he needs then a set of drills, or he needs, something to complement that kind of thing. So it's a matter of trying to understand that journey. That's very key. And the companies that understand that they can help their customer, they can tell them that story, they can bring them along on that journey. Those are the ones that are going to be successful, and more successful than the ones that are just product based. Right, just transactional. Yeah, I'll sell you a drill, sell you a electric drill, and that's it. That's a transaction. The companies that are going to survive are the ones that again move from into that liminal space to the transformational space, where they look at the journey. What are they trying to fix? How are they trying to fix it? How does this fit with who they are as a person, and what is part of this type thing? So they're able to do that in terms of the experience, in terms of the value. Like, that's what's ultimately important is if I can provide that extra value to you, you're going to do business with me because like, and trust me, right? And it's no different online. There's ways of doing this, and this is again a prime example of that through the live streaming, right? Or podcasting or videos or whatever it is that you're creating as a consultant or a trainer or a coach. That is your value. So how do you actually convey that? You convey that in the digital environment so that it's accessible to every person, and you're helping them through that journey. You're being very specific, right? In this case, I'm taking you on an expedition. So I know that I'm going to need to prep you first. I'm going to get you your tools, your equipment, your understanding. I'm going to show you what you need to do and what to watch out for, you know, your risks and that sort of thing. And then we're going to start on this journey. So each of these little pieces, that goes much deeper in terms of how do we actually design an expedition for your business. Again, it's not just throwing things together in a big bucket and saying, okay, let's go on an expedition. It's, we have to plan this out. We have to be able to see, okay, what's our flight plan? How are we going to actually get there? And are we even pointed in the right direction? And then that's where sort of your digital delivery as well can work at, you know, enhancing that. And you did mention that, yeah, in places around the world, there still are places without good connections, right? So let's be honest, you know, can you actually do that? Well, you might have to do some workarounds as well. I don't know if there's, you know, alternative services. It doesn't necessarily have to be satellite, but it can be. There are some services here in Australia for some of the remote areas where it's transmission towers, which then connects to the internet. So it's not necessarily, you know, internet 100%, but it's better than DSL or ADSL or whatever the case may be. So, I mean, it's a huge question. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do it justice, but look, if there is a part that allows you through the able to digital deliver, is that you can get in contact with other people outside of your reach. So maybe it's more of a session thing. It's like, can you connect at a certain time in a certain place? You know, because if you prepare yourself, you can do that. Like I do, you know, some live sessions, and if I'm on the road, obviously not recently, but if I'm on the road, I can say I'll be ready and I'll get my equipment set up and I'll make sure I've got a good connection at 5 p.m. on Thursdays. So then people can say, okay, I'm going to join Pomelo at, you know, 5 p.m. on Thursdays for my show, for his show rather, where I can learn about this. So that might help in terms of being specific to say, okay, look, here's a time, here's a place, away you go. Or it's a batch processing where if it's a more product based, then you batch them all together. And then at the end of the week or at a certain time, then you say, okay, we're shipping at this time. If your order's not in, we'll have to get you on the next round. So I don't know, was that helpful?
Right, thanks, Doyle. Yeah, then another thought that just quickly crosses my mind before we pop across to Trevor there is in terms of your question, Buehler, around the remote areas. You know, one of the ways to perhaps also look at addressing that is creating some form of aggregation services for those people, and then using you know, internet cafes and Wi-Fi hotspots that are reasonably accessible for the individual suppliers or whatever they are to actually go and gain access to those services and facilities when they're in the area. So just a mix and match of what Doyle is suggesting there, I think, but something that might work more in the more remote areas around here. And then there's one of the concepts we've started to develop around our virtual mall, where we're bringing in, you know, aggregate numbers of small businesses and providing them with a level of service. Right, Trevor, let's get across. Sorry, Doyle.
Maybe, sorry, just maybe if it's a good market, if it's a good business audience or customer group, why don't you bring them to bring the internet to them, right? If they can't get to the internet, bring the internet to them. So maybe you set up, you know, the internet so that they can actually order, because that might be, you know, something, if they don't have it, guess what? Immediately they're going to be attracted to that. So you bring it to them, then they come to you for your business service or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Thanks. Yes, Trevor.
Yeah, I see Master writing that down. He's not allowed to. I've already trademarked that. Anyway, Doyle, you know what I'm interested in is, Doyle, you're operating out of Perth, but you came out of Canada. You had this sort of top 40 type operation. But where is Doyle going to spend his time in the next 365 days? And just let me preface this. I think in this time of COVID crisis, we've never been presented with as big an opportunity ever as we've been presented now. And so I'm intrigued, and you've only got 30 seconds to answer this 5-hour question. I'm intrigued as to where you will want to spend the vast majority of your time that gives you the best return on investment for your time and effort in the next 365 days.
You mean me personally or for businesses?
You personally, when it comes to the business angle of who you are, what you're doing, the leadership that digital, how you spending your time.
Well, I think that it's really important to be building digital assets, right? So I'm looking at specifically developing more training programs, more sort of leadership type programs, more digital leadership type programs, so that people actually are able to connect, you know, on an ongoing basis. So to me, that's really important, is how can I magnify what I'm doing? Well, if I have got an asset, a digital asset, as a challenge, as a training, as a video, as a live stream, as a podcast, you know, all these different tools and that sort of thing, that becomes very, very valuable over time. So it's not just going into marketing, it's going into, okay, let's create a strong foundation for my business too. How can I actually affect people from around the world through something that they can learn or train or experience as well? So that was over 30 seconds of Trevor, sorry.
Yeah, I know, and I'm looking at that time, and Ivan's going to shoot me, but I just want to share with you, Doyle, as well. One of the primary drivers behind us getting this off the ground, as so well planned as we did it, in a couple of seconds 10 days ago, is this idea of taking all of our assets, intellectual property assets, and putting them out to 1 million people, not at the price or value that they really are, but at $1 a month. But can we double that? Can we do 2 million people at $1 a month and share some of that with you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's even if it's only $1, it's, you know, every idea counts. So that's a pretty cool idea in terms of getting the assets out there and being able to develop them. But look, you can reuse them and repurpose them, and you know, you can have so many different variations of that asset itself. That's the cool part. Again, I get excited about this stuff, but as a digital asset, it doesn't need to exist in, you know, as one specific finite whatever piece. Right? You can have so many different iterations of it, so many different delineations of it, that it really kind of compounds that value of that asset. So that's super, super important. But along with that, like if you're selling, you know, access to assets, then what you also need to sell is, you know, personalization to that access to the assets. So a community like this is fantastic, or a working group where you go through specific topics, or you go through specific trainings as well. So the assets are there, right? But the big challenge that a lot of businesses face is that, and people too, as you know, that you don't necessarily utilize those assets. So you could have this massive cavern of digital assets, right? You could half the internet. Well, what is half the internet? It's like a lot of stuff. But unless you're actually guiding those people, and that's where that experience comes in, you've got the value, right? You have that the peak of the triangle. You've got that value, which is fantastic. How are you creating it so that people can actually leverage that and use it? You have to help them through that, you know, again, through community, through workshops, through online sessions or Zoom sessions or one-on-ones or one-to-many or all of this stuff. Help them with understanding those assets, because then they actually see that this value of that, it's not worth $1. I'm so darn lucky I got that, right? Yep. It's worth thousands of dollars because it's helped my business. But sitting in a vault that I have access to kind of lowers the value. But if then you said, Trevor, you said to me, Doyle, I'm going to walk you through these assets, show you exactly how to use them so that it helps and makes a difference. That's the experience that I want. Trevor, I'm with you 100%. Let's go do this. So you enhance that value and you're able to deliver it in the digital space as well. So
Good.
Fantastic. Thanks, Doyle. And I think a great way to wrap up this session. And once again, Doyle, real appreciation from all of us coming through from Perth today, and great way to refocus our minds and prepare for the rest of the day and the rest of this period, however long it lasts. And like you said, we've got no real idea of where to, over the next little while. And it's going to be an interesting time, and we have to really sharpen our focus on our swords and get our strategies lined up and make them work. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you, Ivan. Thank you, Trevor. Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching and the questions as well. So really appreciate it.